You can edit this stuff, right?
Yeah. All right, so we're back with Hard to Kill. I think we're at episode 29, and we're back in Cranford, New Jersey with Captain Dan Donnerstag. Thanks for coming on with me again, Cap. And yeah, thanks for being here, man. How you feeling?
Good, doing well, doing really well. Happy we had the winter that we had, very mild.
Yeah. You didn't get much snow down here, huh?
Like zero. I don't know how it was in Boston.
No, same up there. It's always I'll take that versus a blizzard all the time, man. I'm not one into dealing with shoveling snow or anything like that.
I hear you, man.
Fucks up our roads and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, how you doing?
Good, man. Just every day, just grinding out, working.
Day by day.
Day by day. That's it, man.
So Dan is a New Jersey state detective, and he's been doing that for how
long? As a police officer, I've been a police officer for about 9 years, and just transitioned to being a detective about a year ago at this point.
When I think of that, would you say that was an easy transition from the Marines to that? Is it similar?
No. Actually, I was having this conversation with another officer who was also a veteran not long ago. Yeah, nothing against the police world and stuff like that. There is a certain, I don't even want to call it a brotherhood, but there's a certain environment that you get into as a police officer. Going into this profession, I thought that it would be very similar to what it was like in the military, and the brotherhood that we had in the military. We're very close. I mean, like...
Gotta be.
Like, yeah, exactly. Because your lives depend on each other.
It's different than that, but when it comes down to that. I hear you.
100%, and there's a lot of comedy that's also involved in it. You get very close, you're living together and that sort of thing. But I will say that the police world is different from that. We don't have the closeness, we don't have the bond.
Because it's a job, it's a 9 to 5 at the end of the day.
Right, exactly.
Your life does somewhat depend on it, with your day-to-day work, but it doesn't in different regards, which I can understand.
Right, and then, there is a certain amount of liability that's attached to being a police officer, especially now in this day. So there's a certain amount of responsibility that you have with that.
I'm sure you see politics play much more of a part in it. I don't know, maybe it doesn't versus the Marine Corps.
Yes and no. Yeah. It depends on the.
I'm sure there's similarities.
I'm a municipal police officer and I'm a municipal detective, but it even kind of gets down to the municipal politics,
of course,
and that bleeds into police work and stuff like that. But nature of the beast with anything.
Of course. So, just having this conversation at this time, we got to talk about current events to a certain degree.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Right now, I believe we're at 4 foreign objects being shot down in our aerospace. It's a weird feeling. We've never really dealt with that before. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, you think of the United States as this walled off, very sovereign nation, and there's nothing that's gonna be able to penetrate our borders, whether it's in the air, whether it's on land, whether it's by sea, that sort of thing. And then when you see something like this, and when you 100% know that it's attached to a different country, a country that doesn't have our best interests at hand, that's.
I think
for me, that's super. It's.
I think people of today are almost spoiled by that. And it comes out in the media to a certain degree, as you've been seeing. We feel safe.
Yeah.
Nothing's really reached out and touched us since 9/11, if you will.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, we do take that for granted. And then I think when it came to be that it was something from China, I think a lot of us were, myself included, were very surprised. I thought that we were the greatest thing in the world, and we would not allow something like that to happen. And it shows that we have some vulnerabilities here in the United States as it is.
Would you say that's a reflection on our leadership right now? Would that change if there was someone different in the presidency?
Yeah, I actually don't think it has any reflection on our current administration. I think that's something that the Chinese maybe they took advantage of it. I don't know. I think.
We can
I think there were reports that there were some other objects that
I heard that
they
as well.
spotted under the administration before this one. But I think they're just taking advantage.
Really, we haven't really heard anything about it, though. I mean, has Biden really addressed it yet? I mean, I haven't really heard anything I've heard different news stations, reporting on it. I haven't really heard it out of, the president's mouth yet.
Yeah. I know that he missed it under the State of the Union address. There was kind of prime time to address it, but kind of missed that opportunity. I thought that would probably have been a good time to address the issues, but I don't know.
I don't know if I was a president, I'd probably stay away from that.
Yeah, no,
that's a touchy one.
Sensitive topic there. No, but it is concerning, but ultimately
it's weird. If anything, I mean, you always hear the talk about UFOs or things that we don't understand flying, but you don't really take them seriously. Mm-hmm. But when you actually live through an event of it, it's just like, oh fuck, maybe that's something that's happening or possible, if you will.
Yeah, and there's some speculation like this is a sign of what's kind of
that's scary.
A sign of the times.
That's scary.
Leo.
No, he's good. That's fine. It's just a rag. But just to give you, I know we've done an episode with Dan before, but I don't know if we've fully explained who Dan is or what he's done for us. But it's a privilege every time I come down here because I always interview people from different walks of life of the military, and I don't really know for sure their story. They're always telling their story to me, but I know your story. I was there with you, and it means something to me just knowing that. It gives the podcast a little bit more flavor because I was there with you, man. I saw most of the same things that you did, and we're still here talking, and we're still here hooking in a jab. And how are you doing now, man? Does that affect you today in your job, or with your family? how does the military transcribe to how you're doing now?
That's a really important question. It's like I have a coworker of mine who was also in the Marine Corps and was in actually 3rd Marines.
Oh no shit.
So we kind of talk about that a lot. Like what to go from the military and then to go into the civilian world and what that's like. And I'll be honest with you, I struggle a little bit. Of course.
I think we'd be wrong not to be real about that because that's something we deal with, man.
Yeah, and as I don't know, I can speak from the capacity that I had, what I was doing in Afghanistan, and where I was, I had a number of guys that were under me, and there was that weight of leadership and the responsibility of having that leadership and being responsible for the guys over there, and then it's kind of weird just being responsible for yourself.
Of course. Well, do you even think of that? Shit, you got 20 guys under you.
Yeah.
When do you think about yourself?
Well, it's different, but when you get out and you're in the civilian world and it's just you, and so you only have to be responsible for yourself. So that's the point I was trying to make. Is that
shock.
Yeah, it's like, man, like I guess it's just me that I have to.
It's funny you bring that up because someone was talking about that on a podcast recently. The op tempo's so high when you're in, you don't really have the time to think about what you're going through personally or what you're dealing with as an individual. But when you get out, you kind of have a little bit more time, and you start realizing, oh shit, this is what I did go through, and this is what I'm dealing with now because of that. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of eye-opening, to a certain degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scary, if you will. Shit, man. When you start realizing the things that actually deal with what you're going through now, it's kind of trippy.
What, from Afghanistan, you're saying? Yeah. No, it is, But that's the other aspect of it, where you're used to, watching where you walk. You're used to watching where you're driving. You're used to checking the roadways, checking, making sure that your buddy's directly behind you, or,
I think it's funny when people in your normal life notice it.
Yeah.
And they call you out, I'm like, what are you doing?
I know when I first came back, and I'm sure you as the gunner of our vehicle, checking the culverts and stuff like that. So when I initially came back, I found myself focusing, and this is just a matter of habit, really, is what it comes down to. I found myself focusing on the sewer grates. So every time I would pass the sewer grate, I'm like, I'm looking in the sewer grate. It was, so it was kind of trippy. I was like, why am I doing this? And then I realized, that's something that we were accustomed to in Afghanistan, and that's what we did for checking for IEDs, because they would stuff them in the culverts.
So the whole time when you're in the A driver spot, you're just zoned in completely on the side of the road. I mean, you have so many responsibilities in that role. I mean, you must transition from looking at what you're driving past, getting on the comms, looking at the DFT. Like, that's a stressful fucking position, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. I guess you don't really think about it like that at the time, but it's just like, as you get into the deployment, you start getting used to what you're supposed to do. So, one of the things you're supposed to do is get on the comm, make sure all your vehicles are good, make sure all your guys are good, make sure that you're checking the roadway, and I guess it's just like second nature as you start getting to the...
Have you used any of stuff like that you use in Afghanistan in your current position today? Like, have you used any of the things that, made you a good Marine over there in your position today, or would you say some of that kind of fell on the back burner?
Yeah, it's kind of... Is there a direct translation to the civilian world as a police officer? No. The tenets of leadership that the Marine Corps and I think the military instills in you certainly will translate over into the civilian world. And I hold on to that. And you guys as junior NCOs, you guys have the same thing. And that's something that I think the Marine Corps does pretty well. It's sort of a selfless type of thing that the Marine Corps instills.
For sure.
And I think that's the heart of leadership, is like, hey, look, this isn't about you anymore, but about the mission and then your people.
I think really when you see it in action, that's when it really kind of reflects to you, oh shit, this is what they've been talking about this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
This is how leadership really works.
Yeah.
When you see, the Marines under you actually take orders and implement them successfully, to the greater good of the mission, that it hits, close to, your heart when you say things and they're taken by senior NCOs and they're implemented down to junior Marines and they're just executed flawlessly.
Right. Yeah, there's some importance there that I think the Marine Corps, again, I think the Marine Corps instills in it, and junior leaders, and even to the youngest private, lance corporal and stuff like that, that orders, when you're giving orders, you have to, they're done and they're executed in that sort of manner. And so, getting back to your original question, does that translate into the civilian world? I mean, it kind of doesn't,
I can imagine that.
I think some of the bigger businesses, they use, I know a lot of the some of these bigger businesses, they'll go to leadership classes put on by the military, specifically the Marine Corps, to kind of train their young leaders to do what we do in the military and how that works.
We actually have I think 2 podcasts ago, or last podcast, I have a major, Nishan Campbell. He's a reservist out of Tampa. But he has a company in the civilian world that hires Marines right out of the system, right, getting out of the Marine Corps. And he has a couple of ranges, and he puts them to work just going through the weapon systems, teaching civilians how to shoot, reserve, stuff like that. But just taking them right when they get out and plugging them right into something that they're used to dealing with every day has been really successful for him.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably worked out well with that.
For sure, for sure.
That's cool.
Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about, you want this page? Is actually what's going on in Ukraine right now. So I'm so used to being I feel like Afghan is kind of like the new kids on the block. We were the last major engagement, you know what I mean? The last guys that really put rounds down range, but now we have Ukraine.
Yeah.
How do you think the war's kind of evolved, or from what we are used to doing to what they're doing? They're using fucking drones, dude, to drop payloads.
Yeah. So that's the new thing. I mean, you lessen the amount of people that you put at risk, soldiers that you put at risk. I guess the drawback is that you're not as accurate with it.
For sure. Friendly fire.
Although I'm sure that they're getting a lot better with it. And then we'll probably have people that did stuff with the drones come over here and train us.
That's crazy.
I don't know, maybe. But
it just shows you how AI is kind of taking over slowly.
100%, 100%, and AI is kind of the wave of the future, and I think if we want to be more lethal as a military, I think, and I think we are picking up on it more, is getting behind the AI.
For sure.
People, and just
utilize it properly.
Yeah,
right?
like China's using it, man. Like, certainly in Ukraine, but that is the future. And I think we really need to try. And I don't know if you know this, but so there's a bunch of infantry battalions that we got rid of.
Yeah, I heard that.
Artillery battalions.
Yep.
So, 1st Battalion, 12th Marines, which is what I was a part of.
You're an Arty guy originally, correct?
Yeah, originally Arty guy, and then I did the individual augment billet to 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, where I headed up as the OIC for the police advisor team there. But so they're getting rid of 1st Battalion, 12th Marines, I think in May or something like that. So they're getting rid of artillery battalions. They're getting rid of infantry.
What does that mean? What does that really mean?
I think there's a transition there that they're going to go from these ground pounding units, although we still need them, and transition to more of a smart military with this AI stuff.
Would you say that island warfare is something that we're thinking of to a certain degree? I mean, is Taiwan being thought of as the next battlefield?
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's a losing battle for us. I think that our top generals probably know that. I think it's something that.
How could they not?
I think China probably also knows that. I'm just speculating here,
of course.
But if I had to guess, I think China probably knows that that's also a losing battle because ever more we're a global economy, and so our economies support one another. So China's economy supports ours, and vice versa. U.S.
We're all tied in.
Yeah. So to have any kind of conflict would be
devastating to a certain degree, right?
On a global level. So that's just me. I could be wrong, and I really hope it doesn't go that route.
No, I agree with you completely.
China's a country of 1.3 billion people or something
That's
like
crazy.
that. Yeah, it's the biggest.
I hope it would never come to actually boots on ground between the two, powers. But I mean, once again, we're just speculating. So
yeah,
I mean, just looking at this from a military mindset is all we're doing. But it's something to think about.
it is something to think about, and it kind of sucks to think about because I mean, obviously, then you start talking about nuclear weapons, and both countries have nuclear weapons, and that's an end all.
I actually
there's no coming back from that.
Nothing left after those.
Yeah.
So North Korea just actually did one of their grand parades. I'm sure that it mostly has to do with propaganda, what they're trying to, show that they got a little bit of bicep in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're just parading their gigantic nuclear missiles down like the strip of.
It's posturing.
Yeah, of course, flexing a little bit.
Look at us.
We're here too.
Yeah.
I feel like he loves to do that. Whenever anyone else is beefing, North Korea is always like in the background. Like, hey, we're still here.
Yeah. Well, that's another country that's supported by China, so they're like little props of China, I'm sure that's probably a little bit more well known.
So, we kind of talked about it before we got on camera, but now this is something that I bring up because a lot of my previous podcasts circle around it. Something that is a big concern right now is veteran suicide. I mean, we hear about it day after day. I interviewed a gentleman, Mark Bodrog, recently that did a play about 22 a day. So it focuses around a Marine that has 22 of his friends die a day. I guess that's roughly the number right now about veterans killing themselves daily, which is fucking crazy.
I think the numbers decreased, but I don't know if the numbers decreased because the World War II guys are dying off. Now the Vietnam guys are dying off.
I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah, but most of those 22 were coming from dudes that were in Vietnam.
Gotcha.
So they say that the numbers have gone down to like 17.
They never really broke that down. What generation of veteran that? How do you break that down? I mean, I guess you could by looking at who's actually dying. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that plays into it significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the amount of combat that one probably sees has something to do with it too. That's just a guess. Could I be wrong?
I mean, for sure you could speculate and say that Vietnam veterans had much less support when they came home. I mean, we can all agree on that. I mean, mean,
Absolutely.
they faced a significant amount of backlash with the,
Absolutely, and I will say that I think that we've done better with transitioning guys from active duty and getting them the help that they need. I think we still have a way to go, but we've definitely done better. We recognize that there is this thing called PTSD.
At least they're talking about it.
Yeah. It was like shell shock before, but then like you just you drank and you like
before it was
punch your dog.
Before it was your pussy, go drink and shut up about it. Now they're actually acknowledging it's something that we go through, and they're trying to treat it.
Right. Yeah.
I think they're in early stages of that. Just from what I've been through dealing with it, but at least they're trying, which I can appreciate to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I don't know really what needs to change or what. Just from my point of view, I think something that could help is putting people in the positions that actually treat the people with PTSD, making sure that they've actually been through some kind of, whether you call it combat or military situations, just so they can somehow relate to the individual.
I think you would be good for that.
I've said that a few times.
Talking to dudes that are coming back.
I've said that a few times.
Issues. I think the best way to do it is, and like you probably know this, is like if you need help and if you're talking about it and you're trying to help somebody else out with the same issues, then ultimately it's like a self-soothing
for sure.
You're helping yourself out.
When you can help someone else out that that's going through the same shit that you are, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. And so I think you're onto something there where, to talk to people that have been in similar circles. That's probably a harder thing to do than.
Because what do? Do you check the DD-214? You know what I mean? Or do you talk to the individual and be like, pick on a couple of things and be like, oh, this is what you went through, maybe you go to this group or you go to that group?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That is a heavy answer.
For sure.
And one that.
It's a tough one. I can see why it's been difficult for them to do.
Yeah. But I think things like the crisis hotline that the veteran hotline that they've set up, I think that's what it is, right?
I think so.
I think that sort of stuff is pretty good, and there's like trained individuals on the other end of the phone that are pretty good at fielding those calls and answering.
Hats off to those individuals. I can't imagine what you guys hear.
On that, I think
really?
Like HBO did something. It was like a little documentary. It was pretty fascinating. And it was like the individuals that are taking the phone calls and what they experience, and like you see some of these people that are crying afterwards after taking some of these phone calls. And
how could you not?
I know, like that's some heavy shit.
It was kind of like eye-opening to me. It's kind of shitty to say, and it makes me feel shitty, but fuck it, I'll talk about it. But I've talked to a few psychologists, and when it first started, I made a few of them very scared, or very like they had to look at themselves and they would cry after talking to me, and that's a very interesting thing to go through when you make the person that's trying to help you cry. It shows you a little bit about yourself and tells you that you need to either seek different kind of counsel with it or go a different route. But it just shows you this is a difficult field to deal in. I mean, this isn't everyday shit that we're going through.
Right.
You know? It's not every day that people are going through gun battles or exchanging massive rounds at each other in close combat. I mean, what is the percentage that have actually done that? I think it's like 1-2% of the population have actually dealt with things like that, but
I think it's even less than that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's like 1 or 2% of the population has joined the military, and then that's maybe another, I don't know, what is it, 10% that actually see combat.
It's true.
I think I'm probably off with the numbers, but it's something like that. So then you have this really minute fraction of the population that's done these really unique things. But there are some really good organizations that have been set up by combat veterans for this sort of thing.
So I actually recently I kind of diverted a little bit from the VA and I went into it's not funded by the VA, but it's like a combat veterans. It's like a veterans group that's separate from the VA, and they give psychologists to guys that have been through combat scenarios. Mm-hmm. And it's actually working really well for me. I'm on my sixth visit to Colleen. Shout out to you. But
Colleen.
Yep.
Talk to Colleen.
Yep. She's been helping me. But they do really well at their job, and I think really what they have to do is listen, and really hear you out, because you can't just. hear our stories firsthand and be like, oh, this is what you got to do. This is, you really got to listen to it, and there's layers, and I think they do really well at that. And
if I can also add something, I think you need the individuals to tell you things that maybe might upset you, but are brutally honest.
For sure.
I'm
just dealing with that. Like, I'm not used to like getting upset and listening.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah.
I'm used to getting upset and going the other way or leaving. But if you actually stay the course and listen and go through the uncomfortable shit, it could get you somewhere.
Right, exactly. And then have somebody like give you that rudder steer and be brutally honest about it. And sometimes like that honesty, it hurts, but you know what? It's what you need to hear.
Sure.
But I think that goes with a lot of different therapies. Shout outs to the therapists.
Yeah, seriously. It's not an easy job. I can't imagine talking more shit.
Yeah, seriously.
So I can't like not talk. I don't get to see you every day, and I'd like to talk about a couple of our escapades in Afghanistan, man, because we have a couple of unique stories that other people don't have, and so just to give you the viewers, I always try to talk about what we did in Afghanistan, and I feel like I never really give it the adjectives that it needs to describe it properly, because going into it, I didn't expect to be in that scenario. I thought that we were going to be on like a main base, and we'd pump out and do a couple of missions every 3 or 4 days. Like, we were outside of the wire, living with Afghans, patrolling with them multiple times daily. Things come with that.
Right.
You learn fast.
Yes. You learn very fast.
Give me some of the things that you picked that you got out of that.
Yeah. So Nick's right. Like, I remember first of all, the mission set that we were given is not what we wound up ultimately doing. We were supposed to stay in Helmand. I don't know if you remember. And then we were tasked with we had to set up this advisor team in Nimruz province, which was a whole other province, and then we were worried about like the logistics and how we were going to be supported and where we were going to live, and how we were going to get vehicles, different crucial weapons, every supply issue you can imagine. So there was that, and then we just on the run, and I had some pretty good individuals that were kind of mentoring me along the way. Major
shout him out.
Major Taylor was actually pretty awesome. Never forget Lieutenant Colonel Ryans either. He was the RCT executive officer. I think he was probably promoted. He was a super speak up a little bit. He was a super awesome guy. Just a true leader. But they give you what you need, and they slap you on your butt and say, if there's something else you need, then just come back. But there was that.
We spoke about this off camera. I spoke in a couple of interviews ago to some officer, and sorry I'm not naming him, but they said they were given a lot of responsibility at an early age, and you kind of echoed that a little bit. I mean, would you say you're grateful of that? Kind of motivated you to do your job a little bit better? Better is probably the wrong term for it, or pushed you to, I don't know, just to want to.
I truly believe if you're given a task, right, and you have the right frame of mind, and I think we're set up to have that frame of mind. Like, you can't fail. But if you're given a task, ultimately I think, like, if you're there for the right reasons and you really want to do this and you really want to succeed, you will succeed. And you'll maybe you operate a little bit, I don't want to say in the gray area, but
sometimes that has to happen. I feel like, to get the job done.
Yeah, and that's what it was. So you learn. So I had you guys, what were you, like 21,
22 strong? Yeah.
I gave you guys. I mean, you guys were given a lot of different tasks that were like, this is a lot. You're asking us to do a lot of stuff that's ultimately putting our lives on the line. But you guys did it, man, and I think we were super, super successful. You know, some would argue otherwise, but I could say that we probably left it better than when we came in, and I think that's the seal of success.
I think that's the argument everyone has. You know, after you left, did you leave it better than when you came?
Right.
It's a tough one to.
Yeah, were the Afghan police more effective? Yes. Were they better with talking to different key leaders in their area? Yes. Were they better with you know, weapons maintenance and logistics support and knowing who to go to and ultimately getting people on their side? Yes, I believe that they were successful in doing that, and so then we were successful in our mission.
I agree. You know, one of the things that I can look back at and say that I'm grateful for being a part of was just being some of the guys that volunteered to go out to the checkpoints. And, you know, we would usually send guys out for like a week or two to go out to the checkpoints, work with the local police, maybe go on a patrol with them occasionally to check out the local population. Just basically, you know, go out there, show them how to use their weapons, make sure they were doing it safely, and, you know, show them how to, you know, operate out there. And I am extremely grateful that I was a part of that, because I learned so much just being out there on my own and being with someone that grew up in Afghanistan all their lives, just hearing their story a little bit, how they grew up, man. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So that's a really good example of one of those tasks where you're like looking at it. You know, I asked Nick and like maybe 3 or 4 other Marines to go out to this one checkpoint where you're, I don't know, in some cases maybe about 10 clicks away from us, 10 kilometers away from like the hub of the FOB. I asked you guys to go out there and train those guys out in that checkpoint. And, you know, so on its face, you're like, wow, this is
a lot to put on that.
Yeah, for young NCOs, you know. But ultimately, you guys did it, and you guys were successful. And, you know, I know that you probably shared one night where you guys had to kind of fend off an attack. Of course. And you did very well.
I can speak on that from a first-person point of view. That motivated me to, like, hold it down better. To just because I knew someone was counting on me to do it. And I kind of compare that to you a little bit. About like the stuff that you were given to do. And I know that was a good thing to do at someone's position that I was in at that time. And it really made me a better Marine for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and you rose to the challenge, man. I mean, like all you guys did, man. It was, you know, it was a tough deployment. It really was, especially kind of getting thrown out there and trying to figure all this stuff out. It was challenging, but, you know, ultimately, I tell a lot of people this, man. It was one of the highlights of my life, man.
For sure. You cannot look at that and not say that.
Right.
And I know it's weird saying that, because yes, we were in danger every day, and yes, we were scared if we were going to make it back, but certain other things come with that. Living life like that, it just motivates you somewhat to do better or just be at the top of your game. I don't know really how to explain it so some of the viewers can understand, but I know I was operating at peak performance at that time. We really didn't have the option not to. And that's why I love coming to talk to you, man. I love just reminiscing on some of those times. I don't want some of those times to die away.
Yeah.
And I know some of those things are hard to talk about, but I think while talking about them and reliving them, we kind of show other people how they can do it better, or they can, you know, be in similar scenarios and do it the same way. You know, however you want to take it, there's something to take home from that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
The talk is crazy over here.
No, you're fine. He was killing it the last episode too, because he came up right between you and made a good picture.
Yeah.
Something you got to take into consideration also is he was 26, 27 at that time.
Yeah.
So imagine being a 27-year-old kid from New Jersey thrown in the middle of Afghanistan with 22 guys and told to make a difference. I mean, that's that's not something that you get put on your plate every day. I mean, especially in the area that we were in.
No, but you know, you go there a little bit full of yourself a little bit, and because
For sure.
you know you have the might of 21 other Marines with you, and you're given these tasks, and you're like, well,
Fuck it.
we haven't any choice but to succeed with this. But you know, I guess looking back on it, yeah, I was pretty young, but we all were. But it was our job. You know?
Still, I look at it, and I said before to you, I put myself in your shoes. I couldn't imagine being in the position you were in with the objectives that you had to complete with what you had given to you. You did a lot with nothing, and that's something that you can take from that. And being a Marine, that's something that we're taught to do.
Yeah.
And that's a huge takeaway that you can get from that. And I mean, patrolling two heavily influenced roads by the Taliban. I mean, Route 1, Route 606 was getting blown up shit every other day.
Yeah. You improvise, adjust, and you overcome, man, and that's what we did.
I know it's crazy now talking about it, thinking about doing it. Like, how the fuck did I even do that? But
Yeah.
shit, we did do the damn thing.
I know, and that's shit. I got out 12 years ago, almost 12 years ago at this point, or 11 years ago. You know, and I think about doing that stuff now, and from this frame of mind, you're like, oh my god, how did we do that? How did we come back?
Something you got to remember is we have a different memory of it than you, because you had to get taken out 2 months. So Captain got hit by an IED about 2 months before our deployment ended, with Corporal Cervantes, Lance Corporal Fry, and I believe Lance Corporal Lineweber as well.
And our interpreter.
Yeah. Was that Stone, or was that...
that was Stone.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was Stone, not Thomas?
That was Stone.
Something I was talking about the other day. Think about like the hierarchy of our interpreters. Now, when we first got there, who was the big dog on campus? Was it Thomas? Because Thomas and Stone had a little bit of...
They did, because they were fighting for that
top spot,
They were
right?
fighting, so
Yeah.
it was Stone. But Thomas tried to throw...
Thomas was a little salty at Stone for coming in and taking this. I remember that.
But I will say that Thomas was a very good interpreter, and he spoke very good English. But yeah, there was definitely, like, you're right, there was like a hierarchy there.
Keep in mind, that's not easy to do. So you got to think, these guys are from Afghanistan, and they are interpreting Afghan locals to him in the English language. So there's a certain...
what
do you call that? A certain way that they frame it to make it seem a certain way.
And I think that in different areas they probably speak a little differently too. And, you know, not only that, but the locals here are looking at these Afghans who are actually Afghans. They're not U.S. citizens, and they're looking at them like they're foreigners. So you're probably not getting all truth.
Gotcha.
That's getting conveyed from them anyway. It's tough, man, and I give those guys hats off. And I think I told you this before, that I talked to Stone, who's gonna come. I told him he should get on this.
That'd be huge. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, he's doing very well.
Is he back over there now?
He's not there. I think he's doing some other stuff, but I think he's working for the United States government. But he's a citizen now, and he's.
Oh, they gave him citizenship.
Yeah, so he was here. He got a special visa to come here. He was here for 5 years, and he was able to apply for citizenship. And as soon as he was able, he applied and he got his citizenship.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
good for him.
So he's doing very well. He's got a little family in outside DC.
You gotta be happy for him for that. I mean,
yeah, and I don't know if you know this, but he lived with me for 3 years. Yeah. So it was.
So you gotta say you have a certain relationship with him. I mean, shit.
Yeah. No, for sure. And
when did you reconnect with him after Afghanistan?
So, probably a few months afterwards. I think we were communicating over Facebook, honestly. But I tried to reach out to him. I think the second we parted ways, because ultimately, again, he was also injured.
What was his injuries? Do you remember?
Yeah,
lower body.
Yeah, he's had some hip injuries, but then
because it was right under both of you.
Yeah.
You mostly.
Yeah. So he had broken legs. I know that he struggled with his injuries, and this is where like I think that, you know, hats off to the doctors over there at Bethesda and the nurses and all those individuals. You know, not only Bethesda, Landstuhl, Germany. When we were in Afghanistan too, like all the nurses, doctors over there, they were like unbelievable. That was the best treatment I ever had.
Really?
when I went to Bethesda. They were unbelievable.
It's a bold statement.
Yeah, no, and like, you know, even civilian hospitals, like seeing the difference between civilian hospitals and the care that I received in Bethesda, I mean, it's unbelievable. They were absolutely unbelievable.
That's good to hear, honestly.
Yeah. To my point though is you know, they don't have those sorts of healthcare facilities.
Oh, for sure.
That sort of treatment in Afghanistan.
Gotcha.
And so Stone didn't have that kind of treatment. He didn't have that level of treatment. So I think that he struggled with his injuries. You know, whereas if he was here and he was treated here, he would have ended up a little bit differently. I'll just say that.
Gotcha.
So I think he still probably has some issues, but he's doing very well though. Regardless, he's doing very well.
Well, that's good to hear. You know, he was definitely a huge part of our deployment, and he played a big role.
Mm-hmm.
So I also wanted to ask you about. So I have a couple of events that are kind of hazy to me, and I was hoping you could clear them up a little bit, if you will.
You sure I'm gonna be able to help you?
I think you will. So what was going on when we were in Delaram proper? Like that strip when we would drive straight to the Delaram base when there was that kidnapping.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So what the fuck was... I remember someone kidnapped someone and we actually took them back.
Yeah.
That's a significant statement. So...
Yeah, that was crazy. Human trafficking is...
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you think we have it bad here. I mean, human trafficking over there.
On another level.
Different level. So I guess they... I don't remember how we even got the intelligence that this had occurred, but... Maybe the police had fed it to us or something like that, and so we went on this. It seemed like a wild goose chase at the time.
Yeah,
There's two kids. I remember that, and they had these like, I wouldn't even call them motels. They're like
hostels.
Yeah, like buildings with
rooms.
just open, clear rooms with rugs on the floor, and that's where you would sleep. So we went. I don't know. I remember that was a long night. We were going back to different buildings. And just looking for these kids.
We went to like 4 different places, back and forth. And now, when you go to places like that, is that the police? Like, do you let them take the lead?
Yeah. It's ultimately we're just
because you can't speak the language.
Right.
You don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
And we're there to kind of just
big dick them and be like, listen, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. We're there to just help them, advise them. You know? So that's the role we took. But I remember being very nervous because the streets of Delaram, you don't know what's going to happen.
No, you don't.
So yeah, we went. Ultimately, I think I remember going to like 4 or 5 different like motels or something like that.
Yeah. I remember being in the gun, like, where the fuck am I? Like, what's going on?
I remember Tarango actually falling in one of the
he smelled very bad after that. What was that? A shithole?
Like a little sewage canal or something.
So they don't have toilets over there. So I believe what they do is they run their toilet lines right into the street. It runs.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
He fell straight in there.
Wasn't a pleasant smell.
No, it wasn't a pleasant. But I'll tell you what, he got back up though, and like he just carried.
Took it like a champ.
Took it like a champ.
Shout out to Tarango.
Yeah, shout out to Jason Tarango, man. Like he's actually an LAPD officer.
Yes, he is. I've been watching you build your chicken coop recently. It looks great.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
But he's
a good kid.
A great Marine, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, he got up. He was bleeding all over the place with this like sewage all over his leg. But ultimately, we were successful. We found those 2 kids.
I remember it was success at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was a long night. And that was like one of those things where it's like, you're supposed to have an ops plan going out.
How do you have an ops plan for that?
Right, you don't. So it's like, hey, this is what we're doing, and
take it in stride.
Yeah, you just kind of update the head shed as things kind of play out. But yeah, that was nuts, man. I can't believe you said it. Yeah, it makes me That's one of like the really pleasant times.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Of
we had some ups. We really did.
Yeah, like it was some weird.
We had
stuff.
a lot of wins. Surprisingly, for what we were doing, we had a significant amount of wins.
I agree.
I remember tallying the IEDs that we found, and like, we got up to 30 at one point, and we were still doing well.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was.
Now, something you got to take in consideration. I mean, I don't know how much you can talk about this, but at a certain point, we got an individual on our compound that we didn't know specifically where he came from. It could have been Taliban origins. We didn't know what to think about him. So basically, we were told, stay condition 1, and just keep your wits about you, just because we don't know his background. And honestly,
yeah, you would, even prior to our deployments, you kept hearing about these. I guess they called them like green on blue incidents, where you had some individuals in either the ANA or the AMP that would they would kill the guys that they were with.
Yeah.
So I was very much aware of that. We would get intel reports that this stuff was happening. So I basically assumed that's what we had going on there. Come to find out, there was one specific individual who I think had deep ties to the Taliban in the area. And so even before that, I don't know if you remember, but like we were all sleeping with weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I was telling everybody like, hey,
No, actually, at the time you said everyone in the rooms, one had to be awake, and everyone had to be on condition 1, and we would switch who was.
Well, we had we had the one guy in the hallway. Usually it was like Smur or something. That was like.
Yep.
They would do
their
watch, right? And they would shout out to Smur.
Yep, shout out Smur.
That would do watch and stuff like that, and make sure that we're safe. And that's one of the things that like sucks on deployment. That probably many people don't talk about on deployment. It's like the fact that you have to do watch.
So take this in consideration. At all times, sleeping over there, someone has to be awake.
Right.
So you got your 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals in our COC. Man the radio is just being that person that's present while everyone else is sleeping. But you also have, I think with us, we had 4 guards. We had something that we had that a lot of people didn't have was towers that overlooked our compound, which was a huge thing on, for us to have where we were at. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'd have 5 in the COC and 2 in the sleeping quarters. So there'd be close to 10 guys awake.
Well, yeah, that was thankfully that wasn't like a 24-hour thing because we had limited assets. But towards like after the first couple weeks, I don't know if you remember, but we started kind of realizing that it wasn't sustainable to have
keep people awake at all times
so
and do missions.
We kind of pulled it back a little bit, where we had like just a few guys, like one guy or 2 guys in the COC. One guy was up in our little compound because we were worried about that. I was told that there was that one individual that had infiltrated into the police, the Afghan police, and that was kind of nerve-wracking. So that's why we were doing that from the get-go. Because you always want to plan for the worst kind of case scenario, and so we did, and as unpleasant as it was for some of the Marines, like it ultimately, I believe it kept us safe.
For sure.
So.
Now I'm going to bring you back to, and I know this is a shitty thing to bring up, but your last patrol. Would you, looking back at it from this point of view, being safe now, would you look back at it now and say you would do anything differently, or did anything stick out to you at all?
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, we did everything by the book, that day. We had the mine roller on we ultimately hit a pressure plate IED. We had the mine roller. We were doing a patrol where we were investigating some, like an IED making lab. We go out there, we went out one way, we came back a different way.
Yep.
We lost.
Oh no, we came back a different way. You're right.
We came back a different way. We did not go the same way.
Yep.
We lost one of the wheels or a couple wheels in the mine roller. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That.
I think the far right wheel fell off, and it was like kind of like low a little bit.
Right. So the mine roller.
Shit, that was ultimately where the mine was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
On the
so
right
I think
side.
that's what happened. Like so, going out there, we had this massive sled-looking thing with a bunch of golf cart wheels on it. And so it's designed to roll over the ground. So I guess when this golf cart wheel goes over the IED, this pressure plate IED makes contact and it goes off underneath the sled. But we had lost a couple of those wheels on the mine roller going out there because those things aren't meant to be driven off like hardball roads.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we were dealing with.
So, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So we lost that wheel, and I guess that's where the IED was. It was in that position where
On the right side, yeah.
so it would have gone off on the mine roller.
Didn't
had we had
that
the
wheel,
wheels,
yeah.
but it is what it is. And then it went off underneath us. But I wouldn't do anything. You know, that whole deployment, I wouldn't do anything different. I mean, I think about the deployment, and I said this to Nick before. Like that deployment was the highlight of my life. You know, it honestly was.
It's funny, you can say that and I can agree with you because I hear everyone else's stories about Afghanistan. And they're all, not saying that people haven't gone through the same things that we have gone through or far worse, because I'm sure they have, but it was much different what we did. And just living with an I feel like it's much different when you live with the people that you patrol with and live with actual people from Afghanistan, because you learn a lot about their culture.
Right.
You learn a lot about the ins and outs of what they do every day and how they live and how they operate in the AO that you're operating in. You have to take that into consideration with what you're doing actually in the area, and you learn a lot.
That's a really good point. Like, not only was I fulfilled with doing our job, because we 100% did our job and we were tasked to do something and we did it, you know, and I believe we did it well. But then you also have things where you're learning new cultures. I mean, like you're learning different languages, Dari, Pashto. You're meeting great people. I met, you know, Stone out there, and then really the underlying thing is the camaraderie that you build with your Marines. Like,
of course.
The friendships that I established out there, like, are second to none.
You don't even mean to do it half the time.
Yeah.
Just to put your trust in other people and to have it given back to you is just huge, because you can't depend on that here all the time, you know, but out there you could.
Right.
And I think that's what really is the difference between, like we were talking about earlier, about you being in the police now and the difference between, you know, being in the Marines and that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And again, that's why I say, like, I don't think a lot of people would understand where I'm coming from, but I would do that deployment all over. It sucked.
No,
there was a lot of things that absolutely sucked.
I would too.
But, you know, I feel like you learn so much about not only yourself, but then life itself, about when you're in those in that kind of environment.
But I feel like you don't realize it at the time.
No, you don't. You're right.
You really don't.
Yeah, I agree. You know.
Until you look back at it and be like, oh shit, like I did all this. I learned all this there, and
right.
Tells you a lot about yourself.
Right, exactly. And I think, like, if you talk to anybody from, like, the Battle of the Bulge on to, you know, some of the battles in Sangin to Vietnam and some of the stuff that happened in Vietnam, and, you know, there's some people that probably would give it all back, but I think the large majority of them would.
It's funny you say that, because even the injury that you went through, you still are saying you would go back there and say, fuck it, I would still do it.
Yeah.
A lot of people would. A lot of people that even have limbs blown off would say, fuck it, I would still go out there and push rounds down range and say, you know, fuck you to the Taliban.
Right. Just because it's so multifaceted again. Like you said, man, like, it's not just about going out there and, like, being in combat. It's about learning about yourself and others and and what it means to be a human, essentially, you know?
For sure.
Like giving back to one another. It makes you, and it's crazy when you're in that kind of
close
austere environment, and, like, it makes you a more gentle person, I think, too. Which is crazy, right?
You think would do the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, so in some aspects it does harden you, but in other aspects I think it's made me more gentle and more understanding of people.
That's because you deal with people from every walks of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not just similar to you.
Right.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. You know, we were just lucky enough to be born in the United States of America, you know? They were just...
It's crazy.
They were born there, yeah.
It's crazy
for just about anything.
Yeah.
You can apply that to any situation that you have going on right now, you know? We're no better off, you know? It's just kind of what you make of yourself.
It's true. Well, I think we can put a bookmark in it right there, my friend. Thank you for inviting me down, and it's a pleasure to talk to you again.
You're always welcome.
I appreciate that, man.
Well,
Well, there you have it. Episode 29, Hard to Kill, Dan Donnerstag, coming at you.